she asked the beggar, Odysseus, to come to her apartment so that they can discuss. Now the problem is this. The problem is that the house is full of servants, and some of them are spies to the suitors. And Odysseus has disguised himself because he's afraid that the suitors, if they knew who he really was, they would kill him. But he also doesn't really trust Penelope, okay? He doesn't really know how she feels about him after 20 years. Because really, he abandoned her, right? So they have a conversation, but it's a conversation that happens on 3 different planes, right? The mind, the spirit, and the soul. At the soul level, they both know who each other are right away, okay? Because they've been communicating multi-dimensionally. So at the soul level, they know the truth. At the spirit level, they are afraid of each other, but they long for each other. At the mind level, okay, this is really important. The mind level, they don't know who each other are, because if they did, they'd all be dead, okay? If the suitors discovered who Odysseus really is, they would kill Odysseus. Okay, so this conversation between Penelope and Odysseus is the first conversation they've had in 20 years. And this conversation is going to happen at 3 different levels, okay? So you need to analyze the conversation at these 3 different levels to understand how love works. All right, so remember, they're talking to each other, but they're servants. And these servants, some of them are spies for the suitors, okay? So there's a public language, and there's a private language, all happen at the same time. Okay, so Penelope asked the stranger, Odysseus, prove to me that you actually know my husband. Okay? So can you read, Ivory?
Good woman, Odysseus, the great master of subtlety, returned. How hard it is to speak after so much time apart. Why, some 20 years have passed since he left my house and put my land behind him. Even so, imagine the man as I portray him. I can see him now. King Odysseus, he was wearing a heavy woolen cape, sea purple.
Okay, stop, okay. Okay, keep on going.
In double folds, with a golden brooch to clasp it, twin sheaves for the pins, on the face a work of art. A hound clenching a dapsel fawn in his front paws, slashing it as it writhes. All marveled to see it, solid gold as it was, the hound slashing, throttling the fawn in his death throes, hooves failing to break free. I noticed his glossy tunic too, clinging to his skin like the thin, glistening skin of a dried onion, silky, soft, the glint of the sun itself. Women galore would gaze on it with relish, and this too. Bear it in mind, won't you? I have no idea if Odysseus wore these things at home, or a comrade gave him as he boarded ship, or a host perhaps. The man was loved by many. There were a few Achaeans to equal him, and I gave him a bronze sword myself, a lined cloak, elegant, deep red, and a fringed shirt as well, and I saw him off in his long-bench ship of war in lordly style. Something else. He kept a herald beside him, a man a little older than himself. I'll try to describe him to you, best I can. Round-shouldered he was, swarthy, curly-haired. His name, Eurybates, and Odysseus prized him most of all his men. Their minds worked as one. His words renewed her deep desire to weep.
Okay, her words renewed her deep desire to weep, okay? Meaning that his words moved her spirit, moved her heart, okay? Now, you read this and you have absolutely no idea what's going on. And in fact, no one knows what's going on. The servants, the suitors, they might overhear this, but they have absolutely no idea what's being talked about. But these words are able to move Penelope to tears because she now feels her heart stirring. She now feels as though her heart is alive again after 20 years of being dormant, okay? Why? The answer is that in this language, there is a code, there is a great secret that only Odysseus and Penelope know, okay? And you can't actually find it yourself, but I'll tell you what it is. And it's the word brooch, golden brooch, okay? This reveals that this person speaking must be Odysseus. And the reason why is, look at the detail. On the face of work of art, a hound cleansing a double field. It goes on and on and on and on. And what does this poetry reveal? This poetry reveals that this brooch is prized. This brooch is embedded in the imagination of Odysseus. So what is this thing? This is a thing that 20 years ago, Odysseus is about to set sail to Troy, right? Penelope says to Odysseus, the prophecy says you'll be gone for 20 years. 10 years in Troy, 10 years lost at sea. And Odysseus says, I know. And Penelope says, take this with you. It's a golden brooch, okay? Take this with you and promise me that you'll return this to me. And Odysseus says, yes, okay? Now he gets lost at sea and he loses the brooch, but what does he bring back? He brings back the memory of their departure together. And this is what the words reveal, okay? It's impossible to see, all right? And it's something that you will have to discover for yourself, but I'm telling you right now what this is, all right? So this is an example of the mind, the spirit, and the soul, the language working together, okay? And now Penelope in her spirit knows this must be Odysseus, okay? Not the mind. The mind is still stuck in the present, but her soul has always known. Now her spirit knows. All right? And then after this conversation where Penelope is moved by her spirit to acknowledge that her husband is still alive, they concoct a plan to kill all the suitors. And the plan is this. Penelope will announce to the suitors, listen, it's been 20 years and it's about time I get married and get out of the household. So I'm going to have a competition. Whoever wins this competition, I will marry, okay? And the competition is this. Odysseus has a bow. If you're able to string together this bow and shoot a target, then I will marry you, okay? And the great secret, of course, is that there's only one person in the whole universe who can string together this bow, and that, of course, is Odysseus. No one else can do this. So the suitors don't know this. So there's a competition, all the suitors try their best, but they can't do it. And then Odysseus, who's still disguised as a beggar, says, let me try. Okay? And the suitors are like, what are you talking about? You're just a stupid beggar. Get out of here. But somehow Odysseus is able to try. And of course, he strings together the bow. Okay? And this is the climax of the epic, the Odyssey. Okay? So we'll read it together. All right, can you read it, Ivory?
So they mocked,
They
but
are the suitors, of
Odysseus,
course.
mastermind in action. Once he'd handled the great bow and scanned every inch. Then, like an expert singer skilled at lyre and song, who strains a string to a new peg with ease, making the pliant sheep gut fast at either end. So, with his virtuoso ease, Odysseus strung his mighty bow. Quickly his right hand plucked a string to test his pitch, and under his touch it sang out clear and sharp as a swallow's cry. Horror swept through the suitors, faces blanching white, and Zeus cracked the sky with a bolt, his blazing sign, and the great man who had borne so much rejoiced at last that the son of cunning Cronus flung that omen down for him.
Okay, keep on reading.
He snatched a winged arrow lying bare on the board. The rest still bristled deep inside the quiver, soon to be tasted by all the feasters there. Setting shaft on the hand gripped, drawing the notch and bowstring back, right from his soul, just as he sat, but aiming straight and true, he let fly, and never missing an axe from the first axe handle, clean on through the last, and out the shaft with his wade brazen head shot free. My son, Odysseus looked to Telemachus and said, your guest, sitting here in your house, has not disgraced you. No missing the mark. Look, and no long labor spent to string the bow. My string's not broken yet, not quite so frail as the mocking suitors thought. But the hour has come to serve our masters right, supper in broad daylight, then to other revels, song and dancing, all that crowns a feast.
Okay, so remember, the main conflict in the Odyssey is that Odysseus, his worldview is shattered. His sense of identity, purpose is shattered. He went to Troy to fight for justice, to fight for family, to leave a legacy for his son. But instead, he ends up destroying families. He ends up causing a war crime. And he's too ashamed now to face his son. Okay? So this passage where Odysseus assembles his bow and shoots a target, what it represents metaphorically is a resurrection of his soul, his worldview. Okay? The alignment of his mind, his soul, and his spirit, which makes him invincible now. And what allows him to assemble the bow? What allows him to resurrect his identity? The love of his son and the love of his wife, right? Because he first needs to know if Penelope still loves him or not. And he knows because when they talk, they're able to understand each other intimately. Okay? So